What's poppin', everybody? This is the cartoon kid Ray Rawlins, and today for our first impressions review, we're talking about the newly, I guess you could say, set up series or started series called Harley Quinn. It's on the DC Universe app or website, whatever the hell you want to call it, but it's new. It just got started up, and with me being somewhat of a avid DC fan, I suppose, I play all the games, I watch a good portion of the movies. I wanted to check this out. My brother's a big Harley Quinn and Joker fan too, so I definitely want to check this out. I'm familiar with the characters somewhat, and this is out there, so I wanted to check it out. But before we get into this episode, Mr. Alex Payne, I'm gonna see if you can give us that episode breakdown. So what happens in this episode?
Listen,
Because I
man,
feel like this is really up your alley.
I think just because you're such a big DC fan, you should take care of the episode description.
Nah, you got this. You got this. That's how it's always been, man. You do the episode descriptions, man. You got to pull your weight on this channel.
No, but you're the ones that you're familiar with, and you're familiar with this one a lot so more than I am. So you should go. You should do this. We should take
Not
this one.
necessarily. You know, this has to deal with the big psychological plot, so I think you should handle it just because of that. You know it all.
Yeah, but the psychological part was dealt with terribly. So you could go ahead.
Really?
Listen, I'm not
Well,
gonna. This is my first impression. This felt like a Lifetime movie.
wow. That's interesting. That's interesting. I mean, considering I thought you would like this episode. I really would. I really did think you would like this episode. I mean, considering that it freaking followed Harley Quinn, basically trying to be like, "Oh yeah, Joker loves me," when everybody knows he really don't love her. Motherfucking bitch got locked up and shit. And then Joker's like, "Yeah, I'm gonna get you out. You won't even spend a night in there." That motherfucker leaves her in there for practically a whole motherfucking year. And then he don't come
Not
for
practically a whole year.
yeah, a whole year. So Joker basically forgets about her. So then, she gets out and she ends up seeing the Joker, ends up falling back in love with him. And Joker's a con man. I will definitely say that. Like, the whole thing with this episode is Joker keeps winning her back, and she's basically trying to find out that Joker don't love her, which he obviously does. And this whole episode, or the pilot rather, is a whole setup for her basically starting up her own character. Like, I'm not going to be associated with the Joker. I'm going to become my own person. So that's basically the premise of this episode. So go on with your first impressions, or first thought rather, because I really want to see what you think of this.
I don't know if you want to go with my first impression. This is one of the most forced adult shows I've ever seen. Like every fuck seemed like so forced. Like they was trying to jam that in there as hard as possible, even where it didn't fit. And
Okay.
plus, and plus, you gotta mention the forced racial undertones. How it even starts off with "Hello, my white friends." We shit on the pause. Like, listen, terrible. You could not have been forcing that anymore if you tried. And that's I guess, if I had to give this episode a one word review, the word would be forced.
Okay. And you know what? I could somewhat go with that because, like I said, there was no need for like the whole cursing aspect of it. Obviously, you can throw a fuck in here and there every once in a while, but it's just like you said, it did feel forced. I suppose you can say that. What about plot wise?
The plot, the plot was good, but the plot was dealt with kind of badly. Cause like I
Okay.
said, like this feels like a Lifetime movie in terms of how they would friggin' do their woman doesn't want to leave her abusive husband like shit. Like it just felt so goofy and childish. Like it didn't feel. I mean, yeah, you could argue it wasn't supposed to be serious and all that other shit, but like it didn't even feel like not being serious. It just felt stupid.
Right. I
And
mean,
like
considering. Go ahead.
there was just so much better ways they could go about doing it, even changing subtle dialogues. And I just want to mention, I feel like we're deep into the review portion a little bit, but I just want to mention that um, the voice acting in some spots is especially for Harley Quinn,
Oh yeah.
is kind of again forced and kind of terrible, which really breaks my heart because the voice actress is Kaylee Cuoco, who plays Penny on what the fuck the name of that? The Big Bang Theory, and I like her, and she acts so good in that. So why is her voice acting so terrible in this?
Right. I see the biggest part where you criticize a cartoon, which is obviously okay, ain't nothing wrong with it, is voice acting. Because I do agree voice acting does make the show.
That's the most
And like
important part, yeah.
no, yeah. And the reason why I say that is because I'm surprised you didn't say the Joker. Because Joker was the one who really stood out to me like a sore thumb. Like Harley Quinn's voice actress, yeah, it's kind of like, it's not all that great. But Joker doesn't sound like he has his regular voice. It's almost there, but it's not the Joker's voice. You see what I'm saying? So that kind of stood
I
out
don't
to me a
know.
little bit.
I kind of every time Joker was really cut talked and all that, it kind of zoned out a little bit. Because again, I would say they were in, same thing with him. I feel like they were forcing his psychotic nature. It just felt weirdly forced. Like it didn't feel like a guy who's actually crazy. It felt like a guy who's trying to act crazy,
Right, right.
or what someone
Um,
who doesn't understand what crazy is trying to portray it.
Now, what do you know about like DC and their
Nothing.
universe? Nothing.
Nope. The only thing I know
God
about
damn.
this is that Joker fights Batman, or Batman fights Joker, whichever way you want to put it.
That's interesting. Okay. So I'm guessing you have no favorite moments in this episode, no standout moments.
I will say some of the action scenes were the action scenes were good, even though again, just like with the cursing and shit, a lot of the gore scenes and shit felt like we're adults. Let's put this here. Um,
Right.
but some of the action scenes were good. Is it just me, or did the animation, like for the most part the animation was good and it looked good, but like it just sometimes it would feel a little jumpy-ish. Like it would have that, like, I guess it would have that what you call it, paper doll effect, like how Fingermans have used that it would have sometimes. F is for Family, where like the whole character's body would move forward when they move their arm or some weird shit like that.
Yeah,
Like,
man. I guess you could. Yeah, yeah.
I
Little
noticed a
moments,
weird
perhaps.
jump. Yeah, like just every once in a while, it wasn't like glaring, but every once in a while I would see like a weird, odd motion. But
Like the
but
the
the action
fighting
scenes were
scenes.
good though.
The fighting scenes were kind of a little bit off to me. It wasn't of what I expected it. Like, you want to really see motherfucking kicks, punches, and shit connect and whatnot. And yeah, obviously we can criticize the animation too. We're already deviated from our normal review path, but it's just like the fighting scenes weren't all that. I mean, it was good to see some fighting going down. Obviously, it's DC Universe, DC Comics and shit. So you want to see some of that action shit go down, obviously. But overall, like, and I know I'm jumping into review. Actually, I'm gonna save that for later. Um, favorite moments, like I said, you think the whole Joker and Harley plot is kind of like a little forced. I think honestly, it's somewhat understandable. Like, I'm gonna disagree with you on that one. Because me being a DC like person, I know a little bit about their universe. I'm not like the number one pundit of the universe, obviously, but I know a decent sum of the Joker and Harley Quinn, and that has always been a thing with them. Like, I played the Injustice video games. I know obviously that's not saying much, but there was always a whole thing. Like, I remember in the first one, it's been a long time, so don't take my word for this, but I remember Joker and Harley Quinn, they got into a whole little spat, like, oh, you don't love me, oh, or you're turning on me or whatever. And it's like, damn. I mean, I'm not surprised Joker's like that, but shit, Joker really don't give a fuck about Harley. Like, he's using her. So,
But like I
and
said though, it's not the plot; it's how they dealt with it. Because I'll say this, like, I hate when people, like, more specifically you'll see fanboys do this, and I'm not referencing you obviously.
indirected jab at me. Here we
No,
go.
that's not an indirect job, but you're not a fanboy of this at all. All you did was play the video games realistically. What I mean is like, and I'm sure you've heard this a lot. Shit, I might have even said it to you once. Like whenever there's a show or whatever, and there's something like terrible about a show, they'll hit you with the, "Oh, you just gotta understand the universe for it to be good."
In some cases that's true though. In
I
some
don't
cases
think
that's
so,
true.
because I feel like bad writing is always gonna be bad writing or some stupid. Like I view that as, like, let's say for example, I think that's a valid statement if you say, okay, they never showed us why Batman hates the Joker, and then you could be like,
Right.
yeah, that's because if you knew the universe, then you'd understand why. That makes sense. But when people are like, oh, this is extremely terrible aspect of it, it's like, no, you gotta understand. South Park, perfect example. It has terrible animation. They're like, well, you just gotta understand the show to see that the animation isn't that bad.
And realistically, those two things don't really interconnect. But
No, what I'm saying is because like people will do that. Like they'll take an aspect of the show and say you just gotta know the show for it to be good. It's like you
right,
shouldn't have to know the show for any aspect of the show to be good. Is what I'm getting at.
right, right.
And long and short
Um,
of what I'm saying is the writing, the plot makes sense, and I could see how that's probably a running theme through the thing. But they just dealt with it terribly.
okay. I gotta say, some of my standout moments is obviously, with me actually, with this being my first real reference into the DC series, like being, because I plan on watching more of this. So, with this being my gateway deeper into the DC series, or DC universe, shall I say, I just like the whole idea of, Harley Quinn actually getting her moments to shine. Like, everybody says with the whole, like, SJW theme of having women being the center point of shows and movies, they're just doing that just to do it. However, I can see this as a very valid case. Harley Quinn is a very notable person in the DC universe. So if anyone should get a show, or who needs a show rather, to expand on her character, it's Harley Quinn. Okay. And I'm definitely on the moments path, but I'm somewhat swaying into the review here. One of my moments is my standout moments for this episode is basically when they had that whole first scene with Joker and Harley Quinn, and Joker basically dips off on her. She's like, "Oh yeah, you can take care of Batman. I'm gonna get up out of here." And then Joker basically just dips on her. He says, "Yeah, I'll break you out of Arkham." And then obviously he leaves her in there for a whole year. That's one of my favorite parts. The Joker basically said, "Yo, fuck you, bitch. I'm out of here." Um,
I will
Another
mention
scene.
as a funny moment though to piggyback on what you just said. It was funny to me when she was like, "Isn't he cute when he's escaping?" And Batman's just like, "No." That was funny
Yeah,
to me.
yeah. You gotta like too when they have the big breakout. Poison Ivy basically helps out Harley and whatnot, and they go see the Joker. And Joker basically just like, sweet old con man with a silver tongue, like, man, you would have been better off without me. That's for your own good. I'm breaking up with you for your own good. I left you on your own for your own good. Da da da. Woo woo woo. So you can basically find your own way. And then I like how Poison Ivy's like, yeah, okay, let's see what bullshit you had to say. Joker just basically shrieking, comes by and just muffs her ass in the face, like, get up out of here, cuh. And he just basically, obviously, freaking tells Harley Quinn, whisper them sweet nothings in her ear, wins her back over again before he ultimately
He,
betrays her.
he whispered sweet nothings in her ear.
Sweet nothings. Um, but later on, he betrays her again. So I do have to say, like, while I get what you're saying, some of the stuff is forced. Oh, I got to mention this other moment too. Nearing the end with that big ass plant in Poison Ivy's house, the black sounding plant.
You know what
He
he's
was
talking
like,
about? Dog shitting on his face.
"Yeah, the Saint. You know what a Saint Bernard is?
I know it's a big ass dog.
Yeah, it's a big ass monster motherfucker." He's like, "You know what it's like being in a park and having a Saint Bernard come and shit on your face." Listen, because you know them Saint Bernards dropping them big horse shits, okay? Um, and obviously there's a whole bunch of other favorite moments in this episode of mine personally, but I do want to focus heavily on this review portion. Because I want to see where you come in at this. Like, why do you dislike this show? Because I can tell you already said it's terrible. I, however, really do disagree, especially since we're rating it on like first episode, like the pilot. So I'm gonna go, and here's my review right here. With it being the first episode of the series, I think it was pretty good for what it was. Now, you can say, yeah, voice acting was off in a couple spots, which it was. Um, some of the freaking strong language was obviously forced. Some of the adult humor was definitely forced, like the whole Robin fucking Batman and shit. That's definitely forced. But I do have to say, overall, I really enjoy this episode. Call me crazy. I really enjoy this episode, like, simply because of the story. If you want to have a reason for Harley Quinn to really go off and do her own thing and be her own person, there's no better way to have a setup like this. Now, with me knowing a little bit about Harley Quinn and the Joker, that definitely played to its advantage right there. Obviously, Joker, as I said, and it's very minimal knowledge at best. Like, I just play the freaking video games, which ain't shit. And I've seen a few movies, which ain't shit. But I know a little bit about these two. And of course, obviously, Harley Quinn always tethered to the Joker. When you say Harley Quinn, everybody, every DC person or every person who knows DC says, oh, the Joker, the Joker. So, if you want to separate them two, what better way to do it than to show the abusive relationship between those two? Is like Harley blindly loving this man, and then this man wanting nothing to do with her. And you spend episode one basically having her reach the conclusion like, Joker, I ain't fucking with you no more. I want to be the best villain of this town or whatever. I want to be the big shit in the motherfucking kennel. You see what I'm saying? So that's the whole thing with this episode. That's the main point. And I feel, honestly, that they accomplished this decently. Like, I don't see there's any way they did this wrong. Like, what's the best setup they had was with the first crime scene. Like Joker and Harley Quinn, yeah, they're always doing crime. They're always doing crime, obviously. So the whole setup for it, with her being locked up in Arkham, was done perfectly. Honestly, Joker basically dipping on her, and the whole thing with him wanting to kill the Riddler, that was all set up by Poison Ivy, which I think was pretty cool. She basically played the Joker. Joker's like, no, free Batman. And it shows like Joker does have an obsession with killing Batman. So I even think that was pretty valid. Poison Ivy basically set all that shit up just to show Harley like, hey, he don't fuck with you. So, and that's what made Harley really reach that conclusion. And then nearing the end, you have Harley coming to get her revenge on the Joker, being like, yeah, I'm warning you. Basically fucks up all the clowns in his fun house or whatever you want to call it. And then she basically hits Joker with, yeah, I'm going to be the big shit around here, Carl. So, which you can say what you want about like voice acting, which is true. I definitely do not disagree with that. But plot and story wise, I honestly think this was set up well, especially really well for 30 minutes. They did all that in 30 minutes, which let's not bring up The Simpsons, man, because they can't even do this in freaking 1 hour. So I'm going to overall give this episode a solid 6.5 out of 10. Obviously, it could be a little better because of the voice acting. Like, that's one thing that's always going to stick out to me is like Harley Quinn's voice. She doesn't sound like the regular voice actor for Harley Quinn or even the Joker, honestly. Joker's is a little bit, is very off, actually. But 6.5 out of 10 is my rating. I'm going to let you go on and give yours.
See, if I guess the best way I could describe this episode, writings wise, is if they gave one person the job of writing the plot and another person of writing the dialogue and pinpoints. I guess if that makes any sense.
Okay.
Because, like you said, the plot was alright. It was done alright.
No, it was. It really was.
And everything. It was done nice. It was done. If I had to give the plot alone a rating, I would give the plot, everything from him abandoning her, even though that was a little too obvious and direct, but the breaking out of prison, all that other shit. I would give the plot like a solid 7 to 8. But
okay.
See, my thing is right now. See, like you said, and this is where ignorance might play a part. But like, I feel like Harley Quinn sounded too white girly instead of friggin' badass.
She kind of, Harley Quinn's normal voice, I want to say, sounds kind of like, I want to say like, in a sense, southernish. I know I'm probably wrong. I don't even mean like that.
I'm talking about in terms of tone. Like, she sounds like a valley girl. She doesn't sound like someone who would be out there committing crimes and kicking ass.
Right.
She sounds like she would be in the mall figuring out which purse to buy. So, like, I feel like that's a big detractor in terms of, like, the character, because, like, you can't take her seriously. Like, the entire time she was talking, like, when she was walking out, even after beating all the people in the heart, the way she was talking, it felt like she was going to trip on the first step out the door. like that's what it felt like. Like, I was, like, that's just how I feel. Like, she could be the dumb superhero that always, like, listen, she feel like she could be Team Rocket from Pokemon. Like, that's just how she feels to me as a villain because of her voice.
Okay.
And, but like I said, like, they dealt with the whole domestic well, not violence, but the whole he doesn't love you shit just so like I felt more annoyed with her than bad for her. Like it felt
Hmm.
stupid and annoying, not
I
like
I I do too. I do too.
like it didn't feel like I
Primarily,
want to see you leave this man. It felt like, oh my god, you know what? Just stay with him and let him kill you, so I don't have to deal with this anymore.
I felt the same way too, but primarily because of her ignorance. Like, yo, you don't see that this dude's basically finna do your ass in. That's how that's how why I felt annoyed.
It's not even that because ignorance to that shit could be done so much better, so
True,
much better.
true. But you gotta think though, they had to accomplish like these three main points throughout this episode. And I mean, granted,
Listen, if I
like you
don't feel
say, it could be
because
split up.
they're not even that. All they had to do was change some dialogue. It's not even the time frame. I feel like it's like just the way they presented it. They could have had the
Okay,
exact same timeline and changed some words or gave a different dialogue or even maybe change some of the plot points. And plus, like, see, I think it's the combination of the lack of subtlety with his abandoning her and her extreme level of retardation towards it. Like, all I'm saying is, in my opinion, if you're doing a woman leaves abusive man story, I think you're doing a very terrible job. If I don't even feel slightly bad for her and want to see her get out of it.
okay, all right. I guess we definitely do have, I suppose, opposing viewpoints. But all right, continue, continue.
But other than that, like I said, the everything else, the adult humor is forced, the cursing is forced. The
Yeah,
action,
I
the
can
action
agree
is
with
the
that.
action is all right, even though they again go a little bit overboard with the blood and all that other shit, cause adult.
Right.
And I think overall, though, I think even though I spread cheek and sprayed on this, um, I think it's not terrible, but it's definitely not good in my opinion, though. I
All
feel
right.
it has some good points, some alright points. I mean, not good. It has some alright points, but for the most part, it's just meh. So I'm gonna give it a 5.
All right. Well, there y'all have it. My name is the Cartoon Kid Ray Rawlins. I give this episode a 6.5 out of 10, and he's Alex Payne, and he gives this episode a 5 out of 10. That has been our first impressions review of the new series Harley Quinn on the DC Universe website, app, whatever you want to call it. And y'all know
Kingdom.
what it is, man. This is the Cartoon Kid channel where we talk cartoons and we do it daily, baby. Tell us if you like this episode. Tell us if you hate it down in the comments box below. Leave your opinions, leave your review, whatever. And tell us if you have any other episodes that you want us to review, any other different shows and whatnot, all in the comments box below, and I'll definitely hit you back. But with all that being said, we will see you when we see you. Peace out, everybody.